welcome. Today, I am excited to have Kevin Carroll with me. He's an absolute advocate for play, and I thought it would be a beautiful new perspective to bring in for mastering the unknown. In uncertain times, how can we rely on play? Kevin, background, 4 books, one of them, what is the color, what is your red rubber ball? He speaks 4 or 5 languages.
Several.
Several.
But just depends on the day. So yes.
I love that. He even spoke in German and told me all about his soccer career. Beautiful of how he brings creativity, imagination, and curiosity. And without further ado, let's dive into all the juicy stories he's bringing to the table. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Melanie, what's happening?
Oh, excited to have this play date with you and
Uh,
share a little of your world.
yeah, no, I'm looking forward to spending some time with you again. We had a really robust conversation, our first one, so it's wonderful to get a chance to reconnect and share our discourse with some others now. So it'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, we're in this time, uncertainty, the unknown. And one of the stories you told me that just gave me goosebumps and, was so special is kind of the whole Marco interlude. Do you want to share a little about that?
Marco. So I have a godson. He lives in New York, and his father worked for Governor Cuomo, and his dad runs IT and technology for the governor. So he's been in the midst of this whole, just civil unrest, pandemic, COVID from the very beginning. So his father has had, quite a lot to do, and it's been really hectic for him. But his mom, Marco's mom, sent me a note one day, and I had noticed that his dad would post every Friday a drawing that Marco did. And so I sent the text to his mom, said, "That's really cool. Marco's, continuing to do his art." Because I've known Marco since he was an infant, and his father and I have been friends for over 15 years.
Wow.
So we've known each other quite a long time. So Marco and I have always had a really unique vibe. As his dad said, you two get each other. So I noticed the picture. So I sent a note to his mom and said, "Hey, could Marco and I do art together?" And she said, "That would be wonderful." And I said, "Well, could Marco teach me? Could he be the teacher and I'll be the student?" She said, "Oh, he'd be thrilled. I'm sure he'd be thrilled." So she apparently told him that night. The next day, I get instructions of what I need for the session. So Kevin should have, and then he has like a list. I'm like, what does this little boy have planned for me? And so we've had a running, Marco's master class, I call it Marco's master art class, for 9 or 10 weeks now since the pandemic. And it's just been magical to get to know him this way. And even the way that, as his mom and dad both said, you've given him an opportunity to be a leader and to see himself as a leader, and he's taken it very seriously. So I want to kind of level set this. Marco's 7.
Yes.
So everyone needs to understand he's only 7, and he's lived a few other lives, because he's just so grounded and clever and just a lovely soul. He's an empath, like in a big way. So he really wanted to make sure I had a good experience. He doesn't use those words, but you could tell he was very thoughtful. He'd look up what we were going to draw. And so I have like these series of drawings. And so
Oh, I'm so excited.
Marco, he's so funny. So I'll show you my progress too, because he would give me feedback, all my work. So I'll show you the very first one. And I kind of got scolded on the first one because I didn't have my crayons. So I only had a red crayon. I had a red crayon and a black marker on the first one. So there's an author, his name is Mo Willems. Mo Willems does children's books. Cat, Pigeon, Mrs. Duck, da, da, da. So Marcos loves those books. So our first one we did, okay, let's see. We did Elephant and Cat. right?
Look
And
at
then that's when I got scolded because I only had a black marker and a red.
that.
But he complimented me on my work. He said, "You did a good job." He said, "Bring your crayons next time." And I
Mhm.
said, "Okay." So this is the first two we did. Then we worked on backgrounds on that first day.
Look at
So we had
that.
to do backgrounds. So then we started actually, I brought my crayons the next time. And
Well done. Well done
so
there.
we did pigeon and cat.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
And then, since then we've really had some great sessions. So this
Mhm.
one I remember really specifically because he taught me how to do backgrounds.
Okay. And
So
his
cat was
feedback.
one thing, but
Uh-huh.
the background was really important how I did that. But then he would actually tell me different like ideas he had. We just had these conversations. And then he would get excited about like what we're going to do the next week. And he would go, "Oh, I know what we're going to do next session." He said, "But I'm not going to tell you yet." Right. And so like one time we did a Pokemon card.
Oh,
So
wow. Look
he
at
told
that.
me like all the different numbers and the symbols and what they meant. And we built our own Pokemon card. Let's see, we just did a monster one time.
Yep.
So
Important.
so he would comment on how much better I was getting each time, but he was teaching me like really simple shapes and things to do that would allow you to be able to draw. And I've always enjoyed art. Oh, this is when we did Duck Duck. So then we did one day Marco had the hiccups. We were creating our own character. So I made Hiccup. So this
Oh,
is
look at
Hiccup,
that.
but it's Marco. But
Oh,
Hiccup eats cheese and radishes or something. Like he said, I don't know. Marco just had us do that. Then we did a self-portrait, but it had to be funny. It couldn't be you seriously. So I
okay.
did me with hair and my muscles, but I trained at Marco and his sister Gianna's gym. So that's me
Uh-huh.
training at their gym. And so, yeah. And
Oh.
then it turned serious
Mm.
because the George Floyd situation happened.
Mhm.
And Marco's, very aware young man, and he noticed what was happening on the news, how it was affecting his mom and dad. And so Marco said to his mom one evening, I don't want to ever be black
Mm.
because if that's what happens to you, I don't want that to happen to me. And it broke his mom's heart. So
Mhm.
she sent me a text and basically said, "Would you have a conversation with him?" And I said, "Absolutely." She said, "I think you two could have a really great conversation." So I don't know, like, how do I talk to a 7-year-old about racism? I'm part of this kids book series called A Kids Book About, and there's a
Mhm.
book about racism, which is really beautifully done. But I said, "Yeah, but it's Marco and I, and so I'm not really sure, So I said, "Let's just do art therapy." I'm thinking to myself, we'll just do that because we've been doing art.
Yeah.
So Marco comes and he says, "Okay, we came from a protest, right?" His mom took him to a protest, a kids protest.
Oh.
And just to kind of get a sense, and I said, "How was that?" "Oh, it was okay. We were yelling, 'No justice, no peace,' or something," right? He was just so a 7-year-old, like just kind of like, "It was okay." He says, "My neighbor is an artist. He has a drawing of George Floyd. It's really good." I said,
Mhm.
"Wow." And then out of the blue, he said, "Did you see Elmo and his parents?"
Mm.
And I said, "I didn't see it." He said, "They had a town hall, and
Mhm.
Elmo and his parents had a conversation about everything that's going on, all the protests and everything." I said, "Oh, wow." He said, "His parents did a really good job."
Oh.
I said, "They did, Mark?" He said, "They did a really good job." And now we're drawing a little bit, right? Because now he's decided we're going to draw out of this book.
Mhm. The butter
The
battle.
Butter Battle book by Dr. Seuss. I
Uh-huh.
had never seen it before, so I wasn't
Mhm.
familiar with it. So
Mhm.
Marco's talking to me about, "Have you read this, Kevin?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "You have to read it." And so I ended up ordering my own copy. But he said, at the end, they're deciding who's going to drop the bomb first,
Mm.
who's going to hurt who first. And then he holds up the picture for me.
Mhm.
And he says, "We're going to draw one of the spaceships out of this," right? So we
Of
end up
course.
going through this and we're drawing. And then he's talking about Elmo's parents and, their conversation. And we're just having this really amazing conversation
Mhm.
about race relations, social justice, challenging times. And then Marco says, George Floyd, he was just a big man. I've met big men. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not scared of them. He says, do you remember when you took me to the basketball game? And I said, yeah. He said, and remember I got to go in the locker room and I met some big guys? I'm like, yeah. He says, I wasn't scared. He said, I wish I could meet George Floyd. I
Mm-hmm.
tell him, I'm not scared of you. You're just a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me really realize that he just boiled it down to, right, not being afraid of someone.
Yeah.
Just not being afraid of someone. So this was our illustration. So this is what we ended up drawing.
The spaceship, huh?
So that's one of the ships that they were in.
Uh-huh.
And we had to put our own flag and our symbol. Then we had to, he said, let's build a house. So we put a house on it. So yeah, so this was Marco and Kevin's, the convo is what I named it. So one of the things that I started to understand about my relationship with Marco, but with other kids,
Mm-hmm.
that we're always being playful in our own way, but
Mm-hmm.
they recognize my playful spirit.
Yeah.
And it's very approachable. And so I think I mentioned to you that in my neighborhood, I'm like the old man best friend, so I know all the kids in the neighborhood. And so these are the kinds of things that get put into our mail slot at my house, is we'll get notes
Oh, look at
from the
that.
kids, and they'll just be checking on me or my wife. Right, when Kobe Bryant passed away, and one of the kids in the
Mm.
neighborhood knew that I knew Kobe from when he was 13 years old back in Philadelphia. So I'd known Kobe for a long, long time. He
Mm.
colored this in, slid it into my mail slot, and said, "Kevin, this is for you.
Oh,
Love, Alon." Yeah, and so E, that's what I call him. He sends me notes like all the time,
look at that.
and I've known E
I,
since he was 3. He's 6 now.
mm-hmm.
But these are like notes that E will leave at our house.
Look
Or
at
he'll leave, literally, E will leave vegetables from their garden. Like me, like, yum, look, we're vegetables. Right?
oh,
So, but what I've come to understand about the role and value of play
mm-hmm.
and how you meet someone where they are,
Yeah.
it's something we all have in common. We all have a play history,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you're young, you're developing your play history. When you're older, I'm hoping you're holding on to it and not minimizing it and
Mm-hmm.
allowing it to disappear. And I think that's the challenge that a lot of adults face every day, is how do you bring that level of play and playfulness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that gratitude for being able to have those eyes of a child, eyes of wonder, that curiosity, because even now more than ever, we need a curious spirit, and you need to have that wonder because there's a lot of unknown. But children are really revel in unknown. Adults have a tough time with the unknown. And
Yeah.
so I think this is a really amazing time to summon our play spirit and our playful energy, and really using that for problem solving, for innovation, for ingenuity, for discovery, for wonder, for possibilities.
Yes.
So that was our setup. That was
Yeah.
just the setup, but there you go. So now everybody kind of knows the kind of conversation we're going to have, Melanie.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly the spirit, right? You did a beautiful talk at Creative Mornings. You even had to get special permission to be on them for a second time. And I'll actually post that link as well somewhere below, because it's such a beautiful talk. And maybe you want to share the parable with the two wolves.
Oh, so just to paraphrase it really quickly, there's a Native American parable about the wolf you feed. And so one is evil, and with all the things that come with that, just self-absorption, no humility, just really kind of selfish, all that. And then there's one that is good, right? It's about joy, humility, compassion, friendships. And so the grandson of the elder who's telling the story asked the grandfather, well, which wolf wins? Because there's a battle each day that we each face, the good or the evil. And the Cherokee elder simply says, the one you feed, that's the
Mm,
one that wins. And
yes.
so I think that, when we think about the wolf you feed each day, you have a choice, right? Good or evil. And you go through the day, with that one that you're feeding, and that's the one that's going to win. And you re-up each and every day. And so I talked about that in that conversation for Creative Mornings Vancouver, BC. And last month's topic, because if you're not familiar with Creative Mornings, you have a global topic. So the month of June, last month, the topic was insecure. So I talked about what I'm insecure about, the violence, the virus, and my vocation, right? And so all three of those things are going on right now, and the challenges that we're facing. And I just talked about the fact that you wouldn't think I have any insecurities, but there is something that I face each day, is that when people see me, for whatever reason, they see me as a menace. They see me as someone not to trust. And it's because of the hue of my skin, right? It's not because they know me. They've already made these preconceived decisions about me. And so in talking about being insecure, when most people think, Kevin, you've had all this success and all these things, there's no way. And I said, well, actually, I'm battling, you know, that wolf each day too, right? That I could surrender to that, or I can fight for this other side, the good side. So I don't want, you know, at the very end of my talk, I said, humanity for the win. That's what I believe, right? That humanity is going to win the day. And so I want to always be on the right side of history that way and be supporting humanity. And so that's the fight I'm fighting each day. And I really enjoy doing that conversation. But I do think that that's a choice, right? Everybody has choices, right? Each day you get this tabula rasa, this blank slate, right? To paint your own masterpiece. And you have a choice, right? You can show up a certain way with grace and gratitude and a level of grit to get through the day. Or you can have that other thing where you're self-absorbed and, you know, I love me some me and I ain't about nobody else. And yeah, and so that's the choice we have. So that's what I talked about in the conversation for that Creative Mornings.
And it's so inspiring. And so, you know, it sounds so great. And I think everyone who's watching this is getting a sense of your playful spirit and, you know, the energy. And when you talk about these kids, it always gives me goosebumps, just because, you know, in the neighborhood, giving little notes. How do you create that? You know, how do you create that for yourself? I'm sure not every morning is that you jump out of the bed and you're like, yes, another day to
Actually, I
play.
am. So
Yes,
no, I
okay,
am. I
okay.
am.
Tell
I
me
mean, I
more.
am. I'm unapologetic about that. And my wife
Good.
has brought this up to me several times. She said, "Do you have a bad day?" And I said, "If I get a day, then that's not a bad day. It's just not, right? There
Mhm,
may be ebbs and flow to some tension or some challenges, but at the end of the day, on my walk home, I'm doing my three gratitudes, right? I'm
mhm,
thinking about my three gratitudes on my walk home all the time, because there's something to be grateful for every day. And it's not some Pollyanna thing. Even the negative things, you can be grateful for those because they're giving you an opportunity to solve something, right? That should spur action in you when you deal with something difficult. So it's not that I don't have challenges I face, but do I see an obstacle or do I see an opportunity? That's
oh,
my choice.
yes.
So I think, you know, getting up in the morning and seeing the light of day, as my grandfather said, you're above the ground and not below the ground. So that's a good start. So now, like, you know, let's, what are you going to do with that? And, you know, he would always say, you got to check your want to every day, right? Do you
Mhm,
want to be better? Do you want to make your ideas, your dreams real? And so I check my want to every morning, right? And if you don't have a broke want to, you're good, right? So that's the key, right? Is having a good want to. And I just realized that I want to fight the good fight. And, you know, having come through some really difficult things as a child and the
mhm,
adversity and upheaval that I had to navigate as a child because of the addiction of my parents, I realized that I beat the odds, that I could have been a victim and I chose to be a fighter. And so I want to celebrate that each day, but I also want others to see and witness what I'm trying to accomplish, right, each day. And so I know that there are eyes looking up to me literally and
mhm,
figuratively and
mhm.
watching what I'm doing and how I'm modeling for them, right? Great grace and gratitude, if you will. And so that's what I try to show up with every day. And so I never know when I'm going to bump into one of my little friends, right? So if
Oh,
I'm walking through the neighborhood with a frown on my face and a furrowed brow and all that, right? And they're going to be like, oh, what's wrong?
mhm.
But there are times when I'm very honest with them. If I'm walking past their house and they'll say, Kevin, Kevin, and I'll say, oh my gosh, I have to get to my office. I have a call. I'll be sure to check back when I come back home.
Mhm.
And if you're out on the porch, we can talk then. Is that okay? And I remember one of the parents said that was so wonderful how you framed that for them.
Mhm.
That I'm not ignoring you, but I have to be somewhere and I can't spend the right amount of time that I'd love to spend with you right now. So when I come back, and sure enough, when on my walk back, their door happened to be open. So I'm yelling from the sidewalk, E, and he comes out, Kevin, Mama, Kevin's at the door. Kevin's at the sidewalk. So I said, show me the Lego you were working on. And he brought it out for me. And it was as if, and his mom said, that was really nice of you to come
Mhm.
back by. And I said, well, I said I'd come by, and if the door was open, I would make sure you knew I was interested in what you were sharing with me. So that family, the mom and dad have had, private conversations with me about their kids. And they said, it's just so precious how you see our children,
Mhm.
because you're an outside person from our family, and it gives them this other value that someone else sees them. And
Mhm.
so E's little sister Golda, right, who I watched their mom bring her home as an infant, she's 3 now, she's watched her brother with me. So
Mhm.
now Golda greets me and says, oh, it's amazing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, so we're forming a friendship
Mhm.
separate from her brother.
Mhm.
So she's creating her own, and will tell her brother too when she sees me and he's in school. I saw Kevin.
No,
You
no,
were
no.
at school, right? Yeah. So yeah. So every day I'm getting up, ready to fight the good fight, and I just think, at my core, connecting and relationships matter to me, right? And that's
Mhm.
something that I had to navigate as a child and recognize how important that was for me. And so I've actively practiced, forming and sustaining relationships. I think and connecting and belonging are really important for me.
Yeah. And you can tell by you're living it and you're living your values. So what set you on the path? I mean, you were also you do work for corporations. What's the red thread? How did you decide on this path, or what happened?
Oh, it chose me. I didn't choose it. I truly believe that. So when I was younger, I thought, so this is how crazy it is. I had 3 things that I was really connected to as a child. So
Mhm.
a ball, so you
Mhm.
can see kind of images behind me. There's a ball back there. Books, right? I love books, right? So I
Mhm.
keep books around me. So I literally have stacks of books like here. So if we ever get to it, I'll be showing you like all kind of books,
Mhm.
right? So I love
Okay.
books, right? And betterment, right? There was a community that lifted
Mm.
me and my brothers up, because they knew our story, that we were abandoned by my parents and taken in by my grandparents and raised by the neighborhood. So my 3 B's, ball, book, and betterment, really
Mm.
are the common thread throughout my journey. And all my decisions have been predicated on, is it about a ball, a book, or betterment? And if it's not, then I'm not going to say yes to it. And I'll probably turn you on to somebody else, but it's just not what I'm going to be passionate about or want to invest my time and energy. So
Mhm.
because of that focus, it's allowed me to really have a level of success that basically no one anticipated, because of my background, and you know ending up getting multiple degrees, spending 10 years in the Air
Mhm.
Force, becoming a physio and athletic trainer, working at high school level, collegiate level, then professional sports for the Philadelphia 76ers, then Nike hiring me away, and working at Nike for 7 years, where I got to create my
Yeah.
own position as a creative catalyst. And basically all I was doing was recreating my neighborhood at Nike, a place where people connected and belonged and felt valued. And I
Mhm.
did that for 7 years at Nike. And one of my key Nike moments, I do love to talk about this though.
Yeah.
It's a humble brag, but I got 3,000 people to play tag for 3 hours. So that's so
How do you start something like that?
and so you start with a small number like 10, and then it grows over a few weeks to like 100. And then someone in HR finds out about it and says, hey, could you get 3,000 people to play tag? And I'm like, yes, I can. Right. And I got 3,000 people to play tag with 25 IT jerseys, 3 hours. All employee email was sent out with the rules. And it was game on from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
Oh,
And it was the
wow.
most beautiful bedlam I'd ever seen in my life. There are still it jerseys in people's offices at Nike,
Mhm,
and I've been gone from Nike 16 years. And
mhm,
so that was one of those moments where community was formed through play. And
mm,
I kind of level set the whole thing on play is about connection, but also if you want more innovation, more problem solving, more
mhm.
abstract thinking, more innovation, ingenuity, find time for fun. And this is a book that I always love sharing with
Wonderland.
organizations.
Mhm.
Wonderland by Stephen Johnson. He has an amazing quote in this book. You'll find the future wherever people are having the most fun.
Mm,
You'll find the future wherever people are having the most fun. So find time for fun. So that was a great indication of the power of play and bringing people together in a shared experience. So yeah, and then I left Nike in 2004, and I've been on my own for 16 years now, being an instigator of inspiration, if you will, and an author and a speaker. So the through line has always been ball, book, and betterment.
mhm,
So everything that I do, you know, being an author now, right? Didn't plan that, but I love books. So I've been involved in 4 book projects.
mhm,
Sports and play, I've been involved with the power sport social change movement and around the world, and had the honor of being involved in lots of different global gatherings around the power sport and play as a social innovation tool to better
mhm.
humanity. And the whole idea of betterment, I mean, that's Marco and E and Golda and Olivia and Kai and Elena and all the people in my neighborhood and countless others, that I'm about lifting them up, and the next generation of leaders, makers, doers, and dreamers. That's what I want to support. So those are my 3 Bs. So you ask about that through line, it
Mhm.
goes all the way back to my childhood, and I've been very consistent with it. It's matured and got more clarity, but I've always been true to those 3 things.
Yeah, you can tell and the consistency of it. So what I just love is, again, that kindred spirit for the next generation, right? And it almost sounds like building a bridge. And I'm wondering
Ah, that's
how,
funny. I was called the bridge builder at Nike. They did
oh,
an article in the local paper, and it was called The
huh?
Man Who Builds Bridges. See,
Hmm.
Melanie, this is what you do. This is what you do. Clever. So clever.
So tell me a bit about the bridge building right now. Where's that other side of the bridge? What can you bridge in this space?
So it's been interesting right now with the pandemic,
Mhm,
social unrest, uncertainty. I made a decision early on in the pandemic that what could I offer to others? And so I said, well, I can do inspo, I do inspiration. So I'm going to offer that. And so I just started making myself available as much as possible
mhm,
through as many different platforms as possible. People's podcasts. I'm doing virtual commencement keynotes for organizations or for someone's child. Showing up for different agencies, um, Monday morning huddles or whatever they might be
mhm,
having. Helping Marco's dad, sending him different resources to share with his team around mind, body, and spirit. Just doing
mhm,
as much as I can that way. And I think, you know, talking to basketball coaches, sport coaches, all kinds of people, you know, their teams, their players, really, but talking about how are we navigating this really, really unnerving, unsettling,
mhm,
unpredictable moment. And I talked about this idea of the in between, the liminal space. Are
mhm,
you familiar with liminality, right? And so, no longer and not yet. And we're in the liminal space right now, right? And it can be scary and unnerving. But if you look at it a little differently, it can be full of opportunity and possibility and
mhm.
magic.
Oh,
And so that's what I've been trying to get people to see, that, right? And to be a bit of that spark, that catalyst, that light for them, and to recognize them that you got this, right? And I use this book actually as a good, you know, example, just to remind them, just keep going.
yeah.
Keep going. You can fight the good fight, and you got to have some curiosity,
Mhm.
right? And you know, show up each day, so be present.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And you're going to have a little bit of fight in you, so bring some mental toughness.
Toughness along as well.
But how are we, and I love this book, so you're going to love this book. We
Okay.
need to become better grown-ups
Yes. Agreed.
because that next generation is looking for us to be better grown-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually dropped that book off to the neighbors, to all the neighbors who have kids. I put it in Ziploc bags. I left it on the porch, and I put a little note for the rents. Enjoy, right? I know you probably feel like you're hostages right now. Stuff, 'cause some of them look really like so wrung out. So I was
Yeah.
leaving that as a little kernel of inspiration, even in my neighborhood. So that's the bridge I'm building right now, I think, is making certain that hope will not be canceled. I've been telling people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just trust and believe that and hang in there and keep going. We're going to get to the other side. Everyone's going to be changed.
Yeah.
So how are you looking at, yourself right now and looking at this next iteration of you? You've got this time, right? There's power in this pause.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful opportunity to reimagine oneself, our voice, our presence, our leadership style, whatever it is that you might endeavor to elevate and amplify and get better at. You have time. So I think really, even when you're having tough days, and oh, I love this book.
Uh-oh. What's coming
Listen,
now?
so I
Ooh.
know that a lot of
Okay.
people are feeling anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not just about kids, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are feeling anxious. And that's a reality. And there
Mm-hmm.
are going to be some good days and some bad days. But if you keep going, if you keep fighting, right? If you don't succumb to being that victim,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get to the other side. And how will you be better from this experience?
Mm-hmm.
We're all learning grit. We're all learning gratitude. We're all learning grace, right? And I think one of the most amazing things about this is resilience.
Yes.
We are learning resilience and
Mm-hmm.
not the bounce back. I call it, and I look at it as sustained determination,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that we keep showing up. You're not going to win, COVID. You're not
Yeah.
going to win. No, not going to win. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to keep fighting the good fight, right? And looking out for each other. And that's why I said humanity for the win. I was so impressed with how people started looking out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't speak for every neighborhood, but I can tell you in my neighborhood, neighbors that I've always been close to immediately were checking on each other. We were checking on
Mm-hmm.
each other. But neighbors that I just kind of knew were checking on each other and saying hello. And I was really, I was encouraged by that, quite
Yeah.
honestly. And
I
so I
know.
think that's one of the wonderful outcomes from this is that, we've been seeing a lot of those moments of humanity really showing up.
Mm-hmm. And we want to see more of that.
Oh, we need more of
Yes.
it.
Yes. And you've been so kind to provide a PDF to What's Your Red Rubber Ball with amazing creative insights. So if anyone needs sparks of, what am I going to feed? Why not feed your creativity? Why not feed your passion? Why not explore that and use this time to get deeper into the passion and bring that to the world? Because what was it where there's joy? Um, what
Oh,
was the quote before?
which one is
That's
that at the end?
Oh no, sorry.
Oh,
What you were saying before with, where ultimately all the joy is and the fun is.
oh
That's
yeah. There's that idea that finding time for fun, right? And I
yeah,
think that's important that you recognize that because when there is, you find the future wherever people are having the most fun.
that's it.
And
That was
so I think
what I was looking
that
for.
What's Your Red Rubber Ball PDF is a great little art project, actually, in the spirit of Marco, where you actually get to craft your story using tear outs from magazines. You glue it on there. You tell your outside of the box story, basically your origin story. And the
Mm-hmm.
inside, what am I going to work on? What am I going to improve? What am I going to represent? And then you get to reveal that to someone. And you
Yeah.
have to tell the story to someone and get them to say, I want to help you. Because
Mm-hmm.
the end goal is to get an encourager.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Lane, my best friend's mom, was my CEO, my chief encouragement officer of my dreams from the time I was 9 years old. We had a 46-year-long friendship, Miss Lane and I. And so I realized the power of that relationship. and
Mm-hmm.
someone who believed in you, but also held you accountable for your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations. So that's what what's your Red Rubber Ball PDF, that interactive exercise is about, is crafting your story and working on it, but then having the courage to tell someone that
Yeah,
story and then getting them to say, I want to help you with that.
that's more leadership there and encouragement there. So, so well done, Kevin. Ah, we should start wrapping it up, and I'm having such a
Who
difficult time
knew?
because
Look how
I'm like,
fast that
no,
went.
let's just stay on. There's just so much, and the permission to play and the spirit of play. I so honor you for fully being present and bringing that spirit of play, and it is contagious. I was telling you, once I got off our initial call, I was jumping up and down in front of my husband because I was so excited to interview you.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah, it's
wonderful.
contagious.
Well,
Definitely
that's
bring
good.
it
And
out.
listen, that's the good kind of contagion, right? To be, right? Is that one, right?
That's
So
what we're
yes,
looking for.
I'm trying to be, I tell people I'm a positive deviant, right?
Yes,
So I'm all about, yes, I might be a little diabolical in my efforts, but it's all for good. Yes,
mischievous. Let's call it
yes,
mischievous. And sometimes
yes,
it needs a certain irreverence
yes.
to question the status quo, and in such a loving way, and bringing compassion. And that's what I want to see more. I feel if all of us are compassionate, bring our creativity, and most of all our curiosity, we're all in so much better space. So
Oh,
that's the
absolutely.
fight
Yeah.
we're fighting for.
Yes, right. That is absolutely worth fighting for on a daily basis.
Yep.
And I think that you'll see, you'll reap the rewards from that personally, but even more so the impact that you'll have on others, I think is really, worth that effort and that energy and that time.
Yep. I'm going to start writing permission slips for play for
There you
AV
go,
night.
right? That's it. Yes. And just hand them to adults.
There you go.
Find time for
No,
fun. Find
yeah,
time for fun. You have
seriously,
permission, right?
serious business. Have
Yeah,
some
it
fun.
is. Play is serious business. Yes.
It
And
is.
it's serious in the business of lifting up humanity. Yeah. We should not be marginalizing play or minimizing it. I think even more so when you're dealing with some difficult, find time for fun, right?
Yeah.
Everybody should be, it's part of self-care. And right now, that's important, right? Is, asking that question of your friends, what are you doing for self-care? And then I always love to ask the second question, what's giving you hope today?
Mm.
What's giving you
Uh,
hope? So, I think we have to have, that's what gives you the fight, right? If you
yep.
start to lose hope, there's no reason to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to make sure everybody has a reason to get out of bed.
Yeah. Kevin, you definitely gave a lot of sparks, at least for me, and I'm sure for the audience too, of hope and all these tidbits. So recommendation, go out there, find a 7-year-old
That's it. That's
master
it.
class.
Masterclass. Yeah, they're ready to teach you for sure. I
Yeah.
promise you,
Yeah.
because they do not lack confidence. Right?
Oh,
They are full on in their artist mindset. They just
yep.
are, and it's
Yep.
so beautiful to watch when they're fearless. Marco's fearless with his
Yes.
art, and he literally, when he gives me feedback, he says, "You've gotten so good." Like, for him to say that to me, I'm like, "Thank you, Mark." No, I'm not just saying that. You've gotten so good.
Could you take just that part and bring it to corporations of
Right?
showing how feedback is done? And it's just like that acknowledgement and that appreciation goes such a far way. So
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
for
I
him
saw
to,
how your
he doesn't
painting
see,
improved.
yes, yes. And for him, he doesn't see mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
He said, that's okay. Like, if I say, oh, he says, no, 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 that's okay. That's okay. We can do this. Right. And he would have a pivot. He was so remarkable that way with his ability to pivot.
Uh-huh.
And I was feeding off of that. And I think that's where we're all at. We're at this pivot moment. Right. And so I think the more that we have the creative confidence and the belief in ourselves, but
Mm-hmm.
also in our ability to rally others. So building community is the way that we're going to win.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's going to be important. And I know I talk about belonging a lot. That's really key to it. But
Mm.
belong to yourself first. Do the work on you, that self-care and knowing who you are. And, I think then you've got a good fighting chance. And,
Yep.
one of the things that I always like to say, my actions may seem small, but their collective impact will be great.
I
And so
know
I'm
that.
just going to do my part, and you all can count on me to do my part. Melanie, you can count on it, that I'm going to show up each day and fight the good fight. And then hopefully that'll spur others and inspire others and spark others to do their part too.
It's definitely ignited me. I'm in for that fight. And if I should ever wake up in the morning and forget about it, I'll know Kevin doesn't get up with this. So I'm in
No,
for that
no,
fight.
there's your reminder.
There's my reminder. So thank you so much for that. I'll definitely pick my battles, and that's definitely worth fighting for.
Yes,
So I want to thank
absolutely.
you so much for your time, and we'll say bye to the audience, and thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Be well. Godspeed.
Mm.